Today we're diving deep into what the secret elite knows about God they don't want you know. Perhaps the most controversial revelation about divine power ever shared on this platform. This isn't just another spiritual video. This is the culmination of decades of hidden knowledge finally brought to light. After spending 15 years studying ancient texts, from the Dead Sea Scrolls to forbidden manuscripts kept in private collections, consulting with religious scholars who've been silenced, and accessing documents that few have ever seen, I've uncovered a truth that the elite have desperately tried to suppress. What makes this discovery extraordinary isn't just its implications, but how it has been systematically concealed from the masses, while being used by a select few to maintain their position of power. Why do some people seem to effortlessly manifest their desires while others struggle despite their best efforts? The answer lies in a fundamental truth about divine power that's been hidden in plain sight. By the end of this video, you'll understand not only why this knowledge has been kept from you, but more importantly, how to access this divine power that's been your birthright all along. What you're about to learn will challenge everything you thought you knew about God, power, and your own potential. This isn't just information, it's transformation. And once you understand it, there's no going back to seeing the world the same way again. Part 1. The Great Deception. Throughout history, some of the most profound truths have been hidden behind carefully constructed illusions. Let me take you back to one of the most significant moments in religious history, a time that fundamentally shaped how billions of people would come to understand their relationship with the divine. Picture yourself in ancient Rome, 325 AD. The air is thick with political tension as Emperor Constantine convenes the Council of Nicaea. But this wasn't just another religious gathering. This was the moment when the true nature of humanity's relationship with God would be deliberately obscured from the masses. In the years before this pivotal council, early Christian communities held a radically different understanding of divine power. The Gnostic texts, particularly the Gospel of Thomas, spoke of something revolutionary. The kingdom of God is within you. These weren't mere metaphorical words, they were a direct acknowledgement of humanity's inherent divine nature. The early Christians understood that each person carried within them the same creative force that shaped the universe. But this truth posed a significant threat to those in power. Imagine the implications. If every person realized they had direct access to divine power, what need would they have for intermediaries? What would happen to the carefully constructed hierarchies of control? The Council of Nicaea marked a turning point. Under Constantine's influence, the Church began systematically removing these empowering teachings from official doctrine. The Gospel of Thomas, along with numerous other texts that spoke of humanity's divine nature, was branded heretical. The message was clear. God was to be seen as an external force, accessible only through authorized channels. But the truth couldn't be completely erased. It survived in hidden texts, secret societies, and mystical traditions. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in 1947, contained fragments of these suppressed teachings. The Nag Hammadi library, found in Egypt, revealed even more evidence of this ancient understanding. Throughout the centuries, those who discovered this truth often met with resistance from the established power structures. Consider Giordano Bruno, the 16th century philosopher who dared to suggest that the divine force existed within all things, his reward being burned at the stake for heresy. Or Meister Eckhart, the medieval mystic who taught that God's power was accessible within each person. He narrowly escaped execution for his teachings. But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from Jesus' own words in the Bible, though they've been carefully reinterpreted over centuries. When he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," Luke 17:21, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was revealing a fundamental truth about human nature, one that the power structures of his time, and ours, have worked tirelessly to obscure. Think about it. Why would institutions spend so much energy controlling and limiting access to the divine if there wasn't something profound to hide? Why would they insist on complex hierarchies and intermediaries if the truth was as simple as they claimed? The deception runs deeper than most realize. Today's religious institutions continue this tradition of separation, maintaining the illusion that divine power is something external, something that must be accessed through specific channels, rituals, or intermediaries. They've created a spiritual dependency, much like a drug dealer creates dependency in their clients. This isn't just about religion, it's about power and control. By convincing people that they are separate from divine power, that they need external validation and permission to access it, these institutions maintain their position of authority. They've created a spiritual marketplace where they alone control the supply. But here's what they don't want you to understand. This separation is an illusion. The power they claim to channel, to dispense, to control, it's already within you. It always has been. Every scripture, every mystical tradition, every suppressed teaching points to this fundamental truth. But if this power truly exists within each of us, why can't we feel it? Why does it seem so elusive? The answer lies in understanding how this internal divine force actually works, and more importantly, why those in power have worked so hard to prevent you from accessing it. Let's dive deeper into the true nature of this inner divine. Part 2. The inner divine. Imagine, if you will, standing in the grand temple of Solomon nearly 3,000 years ago. The air thick with incense, golden walls gleaming in lamplight, as King Solomon himself reveals to a select few the true nature of divine power. In ancient texts, particularly the lost fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, there are references to a secret teaching that Solomon shared with his innermost circle, a teaching so profound that it was deemed too powerful for the masses. Solomon, considered the wisest man who ever lived, understood something that modern religious institutions have deliberately obscured. In the original Hebrew text of Proverbs 20:27, Solomon writes, "The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord." But this translation barely scratches the surface of the original meaning. The Hebrew word used here, neshama, doesn't just mean spirit. It refers to the divine essence itself. This knowledge wasn't unique to Judaism. In the early days of Christianity, before the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, there existed a group known as the Gnostics, who taught a similar truth. They possessed sacred texts, many of which were later destroyed or hidden by the emerging church hierarchy. Why? Because these texts contained a revolutionary teaching that the divine power wasn't somewhere up in the heavens, but within each human being. Consider the words of Jesus himself in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17, verse 21. "The kingdom of God is within you." This statement was so radical, so threatening to religious authority, that its true meaning has been systematically diluted over centuries. The original Greek word entos doesn't just mean within, it means inside and inherent to your nature. But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from a discovery made in 1945 in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. Among the ancient texts found there was the Gospel of Thomas, which contains this explosive quote from Jesus, "The kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father." The elite of every age have understood this truth. They've known that the divine power isn't something external to be beseeched or begged for. It's an internal force that can be accessed and directed through consciousness itself. This knowledge explains why certain individuals throughout history have seemed to possess almost supernatural abilities to shape reality around them. Think about it. Why would institutions spend so much energy convincing people to look outside themselves for divine power if that power didn't exist within? Why would they create elaborate hierarchies and intermediaries if each person could access this power directly? The answer becomes clear when you understand what's at stake. When people realize that they embody divine power, that it flows through their thoughts, emotions, and intentions, they can no longer be controlled through fear or artificial limitations. They become, in essence, sovereign creators of their own reality. This truth appears in mystical traditions worldwide, in the Vedantic concept of Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, in the Sufi declaration Ana al-Haq, I am the truth, and in the esoteric Christian teaching that ye are gods, Psalm 82:6. Each points to the same profound reality, that the power we've been taught to seek outside ourselves has always been within. But here's what makes this knowledge so revolutionary. Once you understand that divine power flows through you, that your thoughts and emotions are literally shaping the fabric of reality, everything changes. You begin to realize that the limitations in your life aren't external obstacles, but internal patterns, waiting to be transformed. But understanding this truth is only the beginning. The real question is, why do some people seem to access this power effortlessly while others struggle? The answer lies in understanding the mechanics of how this inner divine power operates, a secret that the elite have mastered and used to maintain their position for generations. Part 3. The Mechanics of Creation, a truth so powerful that it has been carefully guarded through the ages. Imagine, if you will, the ancient Temple of Solomon. In its innermost chamber, the Holy of Holies, lay the Ark of the Covenant, not just a gold-covered chest as commonly believed, but a symbol of humanity's direct connection to divine creative power. The high priests who entered this sacred space understood something that would later be hidden from the masses: the true nature of creation itself. In the book of Genesis we read, "And God said, let there be light, and there was light." This seemingly simple passage holds a deeper truth about the mechanics of creation, one that the elite have understood and utilized for millennia. The key lies not in the words themselves, but in the profound principle they reveal. Consciousness precedes manifestation. Consider the story of Moses parting the Red Sea. Traditional interpretations paint this as a miracle performed by an external divine force. But what if I told you that ancient Hebrew texts, carefully preserved by select rabbinical scholars, tell a different story? These texts describe Moses entering a specific state of consciousness, what they called Ruach Elohim, or the breath of God, before commanding the waters to part. This wasn't about asking an external deity for help. It was about accessing the divine, creative force within. This understanding wasn't limited to biblical times. Throughout history, certain individuals have demonstrated extraordinary abilities to shape reality. Think of Nikola Tesla, who claimed his inventions came to him fully formed in his mind before he ever touched a piece of equipment. Or consider the mysterious construction of the Great Pyramid, where ancient texts speak of priests using thought forces to move massive stones. But here's where it gets really interesting. Modern quantum physics is beginning to validate what these ancient masters knew. When scientists observed that particles behave differently when watched, they stumbled upon a truth that mystics had known for millennia. Consciousness directly influences physical reality. The elite understand that thoughts and emotions aren't just abstract concepts, they're actual forces that interact with the quantum field. They know that every thought you think sends ripples through the fabric of reality, like dropping a pebble in a cosmic pond. These ripples then attract or repel circumstances, people, and opportunities based on their free. Let me share a personal story that illustrates this principle. During my research in Tibet, I met an elderly monk who had been part of a secret lineage of masters. He demonstrated how focused thought could actually alter the molecular structure of water, something later confirmed by Dr. Masaru Emoto's groundbreaking research. But what struck me most was his explanation. Water doesn't change because of some external force, he said. It changes because it recognizes the creator within the observer. This is why the elite guard this knowledge so carefully. They understand that thoughts coupled with emotion create an electromagnetic frequency that literally shapes the quantum soup of potential into physical reality. They know that when you align your thoughts and feelings with what you desire, you're not just wishing or hoping, you're engaging in the actual process of creation itself. Think about it. Why do you think the world's most powerful people spend so much time controlling the narrative in media? They understand that by influencing the thoughts and emotions of the masses, they're literally programming the collective reality. They're using the same principles of creation that were once taught in the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, but for their own benefit. But here's the crucial point that brings us to our next revelation. If thoughts and emotions shape reality, why do so many people struggle to manifest their desires? The answer lies in understanding the hidden barriers that have been purposely placed in our consciousness, barriers designed to keep us from accessing this creative power. As we begin to unravel these artificial limitations, you'll discover why your previous attempts at manifestation might have been blocked, and more importantly, how to finally break free from these invisible chains that have been holding you back. Part 4. Breaking the chains. Chains that have kept us from accessing our true divine power for millennia. Imagine the ancient city of Alexandria in the 4th century AD. The great library still stood, housing not just books and scrolls, but containing secrets that would shake the foundations of human understanding about divine power. Among these treasures was a collection of texts that predated the official church doctrine, texts that spoke of humanity's direct connection to divine power. In those halls walked a scholar named Theodorus, who discovered something extraordinary within those ancient scrolls. He found recurring patterns in religious texts spanning different cultures and times, all pointing to a singular truth, that humans were not meant to be separate from divine power, but were actually vessels of it. These weren't just philosophical musings, they were practical guides to accessing and utilizing this inner force. But as Theodorus delved deeper into these texts, he noticed something disturbing. Throughout history, whenever this knowledge began to spread among common people, it was systematically suppressed. The Dead Sea Scrolls, for instance, contained passages that were intentionally omitted from later religious texts, passages that spoke of direct divine connection without the need for intermediaries. Consider the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. We've been taught that it was about human arrogance, about people trying to reach heaven physically. But what if the true meaning was different? What if it was actually about humanity discovering their inner divine power and those in control realizing they needed to create division and confusion to maintain their authority? The real chains that bind us aren't physical, they're psychological. They're the deeply ingrained beliefs that we are separate from divine power, that we need intermediaries to access it, that we are somehow unworthy or incapable of wielding it ourselves. These chains have been forged through centuries of carefully crafted narratives. Look at the story of Moses and the burning bush. We're taught to focus on the external miracle, but what if the real miracle was Moses recognizing the divine power within himself? The bush wasn't burning, it was illuminated by recognition of truth. I am that I am wasn't just a statement about God's nature, it was a revelation about the divine nature within all of us. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. In the decades following Theodorus's discovery, a systematic purge of these ancient truths began. The great library of Alexandria was destroyed, and with it countless texts that spoke of humanity's true divine nature. Yet, some of this knowledge survived, carefully preserved by those who understood its importance. The elite of every age have understood this truth. The moment people realize they carry divine power within them, external control becomes impossible. This is why they've worked so diligently to maintain these chains of limited belief. They've created elaborate systems of dependency, convincing us that we need external validation, approval, or intervention to access divine power. Think about how this plays out in your own life. How many times have you doubted your inner guidance because it didn't align with external authority? How often have you sought permission or validation instead of trusting your inner divine power? These are the modern manifestations of those ancient chains. But here's the profound truth that changes everything. These chains exist only in our minds. They're maintained only by our belief in them. The moment you recognize this, something extraordinary happens. the chains begin to dissolve. Consider this. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was revealing the exact same truth that Theodorus discovered in those ancient scrolls, that divine power isn't something to be sought externally, but rather to be awakened internally. As these chains of limitation begin to fall away, you'll experience something remarkable, an awakening to your true nature and potential. But this awakening isn't just about personal power, it's about understanding how to use this divine force in harmony with the universe. Let's explore how you can begin to access and channel this power in ways that will transform not just your life, but the world around you. Part 5. Awakening your power. One that begins in ancient Jerusalem but resonates deeply with our modern quest for spiritual awakening. In the heart of Jerusalem's old city, there once stood Solomon's Temple, a marvel of ancient architecture that held more than just physical grandeur. Within its innermost chamber, the Holy of Holies, lay something far more precious than gold, the Ark of the Covenant. But what many don't realize is that the Ark wasn't just a sacred artifact. It was a symbol of humanity's direct connection to divine power. The ancient texts tell us that only the high priest could enter this chamber once a year, on Yom Kippur. But why? The traditional explanation suggests it was about maintaining reverence. But the truth runs deeper. The real reason, hidden in esoteric teachings, was that the Holy of Holies represented something within each human being, our own inner sanctuary, where divine power resides. Consider this. When Moses received the divine revelation on Mount Sinai, he didn't just receive laws, he experienced a fundamental transformation of consciousness. The burning bush wasn't merely a supernatural occurrence, it was a demonstration of how divine power manifests through focused consciousness. Moses' experience wasn't meant to be unique, it was meant to be a template for human potential. This understanding was carefully preserved by certain mystical traditions. They recognized that the same power that parted the Red Sea flows through every human being. The elite have always known this truth, but they understood something crucial. This power awakens only when we align our consciousness with it intentionally. Think about Jesus' words, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." These weren't just poetic metaphors, they were precise instructions for accessing divine power. When Jesus performed miracles, he wasn't calling upon an external force. He was demonstrating the power that resides within human consciousness when it's fully aligned with divine energy. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. In 70 CE, when the Romans destroyed the Second Temple, something remarkable happened. The physical temple was lost, but a select group of mystics understood that this was actually part of a divine plan. The destruction forced humanity to look inward for what they had previously sought in external structures. This brings us to the practical application of awakening your inner power. Just as the ancient high priests had specific protocols for entering the Holy of Holies, there are precise steps for accessing your inner divine power. First, you must understand that your consciousness is the modern-day Holy of Holies. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, is actually an interaction with divine energy. The elite know that manifesting reality isn't about begging an external God. It's about aligning your consciousness with the divine power already within you. Second, you must learn to enter the inner chamber of your consciousness with the same reverence the high priests approach the ark. This means cultivating a state of focused awareness, free from the chaos of scattered thoughts and conflicting emotions. This isn't just meditation, it's about achieving a state of conscious alignment with divine energy. Third, you must understand the role of what the ancients called kavana, sacred intention. Every thought you think is like incense in the ancient temple, sending ripples through the fabric of reality. The elite understand that focused intention, combined with emotional alignment, creates a powerful resonance that shapes reality at a quantum level. The story reaches its climax in your own consciousness. Just as the high priest's entry into the Holy of Holies could bring blessings or calamity depending on their state of consciousness, Your ability to manifest reality depends on how skillfully you manage your inner state. The power isn't in the ritual, it's in the consciousness behind it. But here's what the elite don't want you to realize. This power isn't meant to be accessed just once a year or only by a select few. It's meant to be your constant state of being. The ancient prophets weren't special beings. They were examples of what's possible when humans fully align with their inner divine power. Understanding this power is one thing, but using it responsibly is another matter entirely. As we move forward, you'll learn why this knowledge comes with a profound responsibility, and how to ensure you're using it for the highest good of all. Part 6. The Path Forward. Our modern quest for spiritual awakening. In 70 CE, as Roman legions surrounded Jerusalem, a small group of Jewish mystics gathered in a hidden chamber beneath the Temple Mount. These weren't ordinary priests, they were keepers of an ancient knowledge that predated even Solomon's temple. According to recovered scrolls, these mystics possessed understanding of what they called the divine current, the same force that Moses used to part the Red Sea and that David channeled to defeat Goliath. But here's what makes this story extraordinary. As the temple burned above them, these mystics weren't focused on saving religious artifacts or sacred texts. Instead, they were performing a ritual to encode their knowledge into the fabric of human consciousness itself. They understood something profound that modern quantum physics is only beginning to validate, that consciousness itself is the fundamental force of creation. The scrolls describe how these mystics had received visions showing that humanity would enter a dark age of spiritual amnesia, where people would forget their true divine nature. But they also saw that in our time, what they called the Great Awakening, this knowledge would resurface when humanity needed it most. This ancient understanding perfectly mirrors what modern physics has discovered about the observer effect, how consciousness directly influences the behavior of particles at the quantum level. What these ancient mystics knew, and what the elite still understand today, is that this isn't just about manifestation or creating personal abundance. It's about something far more profound, the responsibility that comes with wielding creative consciousness. Consider this. In the book of Genesis, when God creates humanity in our image, the text uses the Hebrew word zelem, which doesn't just mean physical form, it means creative consciousness. The early Kabbalistic masters taught that this was the true meaning of being created in God's image. We share the same creative force that brought the universe. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. These mystics left warnings about the misuse of this power. They spoke of previous civilizations, what we might call Atlantis or Lemuria, that destroyed themselves by wielding this force without wisdom or ethical consideration. This is why the elite have kept this knowledge hidden, not just to maintain control, but because they understand its devastating potential if misused. In our modern context, this understanding comes with enormous responsibility. Just as a parent wouldn't hand a loaded weapon to a child, the universe doesn't fully activate this power until we develop the wisdom to use it responsibly. This is why personal transformation must precede the activation of these abilities. The ancient mystics left us a specific protocol for awakening this power safely. First comes the recognition of our true nature, understanding that we are not separate from the divine, but are expressions of it. Then comes the purification of our intentions, learning to align our desires with the highest good for all. Finally comes the activation, learning to consciously direct this creative force. But here's the crucial part that the elite don't want you to know. This awakening isn't meant to be individual, it's meant to be collective. The ancient prophecies speak of a time when this knowledge would spread rapidly across humanity, creating a quantum leap in consciousness. This is why sharing this understanding isn't just an option, it's a spiritual. As we stand at this crucial juncture in human history, we face a choice. Will we continue to let this knowledge remain in the hands of a few, or will we embrace our responsibility to share it wisely and help guide humanity toward its next evolutionary step? The answer to this question will determine not just your personal destiny, but the future of human consciousness itself. As we come to the end of this revelation, I want you to pause for a moment and truly reflect on what you've discovered today. the power you've been searching for, the divine force you've been trying to connect with. It's been within you all along. The question now isn't whether you possess this power, but whether you're ready to embrace it. Think about something you've been trying to manifest in your life. Perhaps it's abundance, love, or success. Now imagine what becomes possible when you approach it not from a place of lack or need, but from the understanding that you are one with the divine creative force itself. How different would your life look if you started acting from this truth? This knowledge isn't just for you to keep. Like a flame that can light countless other flames without diminishing its own brightness, this truth grows stronger as it's shared. If this message has resonated with you, if you've felt that spark of recognition in your soul, then you have a responsibility to share it. I invite you to be part of this awakening. Leave a comment below sharing your own experience with divine power. What shifted for you as you watched this video? What questions arose? Your perspective might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to begin their own journey of awakening. And if you're feeling skeptical, that's perfectly normal. In fact, I challenge you to test this knowledge for yourself. Start small. Observe your thoughts. Watch how they manifest in your reality. Document your journey. Come back and share what you discover. The comment section below isn't just a space for feedback. It's a community of seekers supporting each other in uncovering their divine power. In the coming weeks, we'll be exploring more ancient secrets, practical techniques, and hidden truths that the elite have kept from humanity. Click the notification bell to ensure you don't miss any of these crucial revelations. Remember, you weren't drawn to this video by accident. The very fact that you're here, that you've stayed until the end, suggests you're ready for this truth. The question is, what will you do with it? Thank you for having the courage to explore these profound truths with me today. Your presence here, your willingness to question and learn, is part of a larger awakening happening across humanity. Share this video with anyone you feel needs to hear this message. Together, we can break down the walls of ignorance and reclaim our divine birthright. Until next time, remember, you are not just an observer of reality. You are its creator. The power is, and always has been, within you. This is Pathway to Truth, reminding you that the truth shall set you free. But first, it will challenge everything you thought you knew. See you in our next revelation.